This week here in New York, residents are still picking up the pieces after Tropical Storm Irene, and in Washington, President Obama is planning a major speech to talk about his new plan for getting Americans back to work. Both are major undertakings, to say the least. And here to discuss everything from severe weather to unemployment rates are our insiders, veterans of state politics who join us each week to share their analysis of the latest news. Here with me this week is Bob Bellafiore, who was the press secretary for Governor Pataki. He is now the vice president of partner services for National Heritage Academies. And also with us is Steve Greenberg, who worked for two assembly speakers. He is now the president of Greenberg Public Relations and a pollster for Siena College. Guys, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Nick.
So let's talk about this is kind of take two on the governor's storm response. Over the weekend, he did the Labor for Your Neighbor series of events around the state. We had a lot of images beamed back to us of Cuomo in kind of a spotless white shirt, cleaning up mud and muck from people's homes. The reaction to the governor's response to this has been so far universally praised. Has there been anything that he's misstepped so far in this at all?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, I think the universal praise is well-deserved, and this is not a partisan issue. This is not a Democrat-Republican. This is not an upstate, downstate. Look, initially he was prepared mostly to deal with downstate problems. Those tended not to happen. But very quickly, his team recognized that the real problems were upstate, and they were all over it. And from sending out his commissioners, sending out all the various state agencies, the state police, the state militia, the National Guard, all the various agencies, I mean, they really have done a tremendous job in a really difficult situation.
No, I mean, I agree with Steve. I mean, operationally, politically, public relations, they've handled them all well. I mean, and I think what it reflects is a certain amount of maturity that we've seen from the administration pretty much since they got into office. I mean, this is not only a guy and the governor, but the people around him who went through running a government once before, got thrown out by the voters, and then had that time sort of on Elba to figure out, this is what I would have done differently if I was here. If I got that chance again, right? They got to be Monday morning quarterback and then back to play on Sunday. And when they play on Sunday, they're that much better now. And you see that reflected both in the preparation and the response to the storm. And
one thing towards the end of the week, you saw this kind of growing political controversy over how the storm aid should be funded in Washington. The governor was asked, is this at risk becoming a political issue? And he said exactly what you just said. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a nonpartisan issue. He didn't take the bait, which is something that, Governor Cuomo, before he was Governor Cuomo of 9-10 years ago, probably would have taken the bait.
But Bob hit the nail on the head. Andrew Cuomo spent 12 years at his father's side when his father was governor. He spent 8 years in Washington at Bill Clinton's side learning from him. And he had the last 8 years between Clinton and becoming governor, both as Attorney General for 4 of those years, but also to see the good and bad things Pataki did as governor, the good and bad that Spitzer did, that Patterson did, and to learn from their mistakes. And he's really implementing it. And a special praise should go out to Howard Glazer. Bob was saying, the tremendous staff effort, and Howard Glazer, the director of state operations, has really done an amazing job directing the state agencies in this effort.
And Howard, it's funny you said that because you took the words right out of my mouth. Howard has been with Governor Cuomo side by side through all of these steps at HUD, in D.C., and in Albany. And again, that's that sort of maturity that is effective, but also kind of refreshing after, those years of the talk show, the TV talk, the guy whose second career was as a TV talk show host, and now the guy whose second career was as a radio talk show host.
Right. And we saw today with Elliot Spitzer and David Patterson.
And if I can put in a pitch for the Capital Tonight blog, I saw an item on your blog this afternoon where Howard Glazer said that he's even learned things out of their response over the last week and things that they would do differently next time, which is what a governor and a government is supposed to do. Do the best job you can do at the moment, but learn from every experience to make the next experience that much better.
But moving forward, potentially the bigger problems and bigger issues that the governor will face, and potentially more complex and complicated that he'll face, will be the rebuilding of some of these very small towns and their bridges and roads and waterways and things like that. It's going to be expensive, it's going to take time, and there's a concern that a lot of people probably just won't feel like rebuilding at all. Isn't there some trapdoors that he can fall in down the road on this?
Look, there are absolutely there are huge sinkholes he could fall into if they don't handle this thing the right way. And I think, frankly, the legacy of 9/11 governmentally is that the rebuilding in Lower Manhattan has taken way too long. And I think while the Hurricane Irene doesn't quite fit 9/11, there is a huge, vast rebuilding that has to occur. And what the administration has to do in working with the legislature and partners in Washington is find the resources and get it done efficiently and effectively, so that not only does Route 73 in the North Country reopen, but it reopens better, and the road is clean and the road is wide, and traffic can go through again. And there's human struggles in the Schoharie Valley, and people's houses have been destroyed.
Delaware County.
Right. Mm-hmm. That people are going to need assistance from government, but also businesses that have been affected are going to need government to not be in the way.
And look, I mean, it's going to be a struggle throughout. DOT, the Department of Transportation, has vast infrastructure needs that they were trying to figure out how to deal with before this happened. So now these jump to the top of the list. Infrastructure is going to be a major problem in this state and in this nation for many years to come, irrespective of Irene.
Okay, and the stress on Albany is going to be how to finance all that when debt is already at record levels, and pressures on keeping spending down are already very high, and the governor and the legislature are in a mindset where the economy can't afford big raises and big increases in taxes. So all this will come to head when the bill has to be paid.
Okay, let's switch gears for a second to another recovery effort going on in Washington right now, and that's trying to lower that unemployment rate that we've been seeing for the last 4 years now almost. The president is planning on giving a major jobs address, or one that he says will be a major jobs address. Is he going to say anything that anybody will listen to at this point? And is he going to say anything that people will say, you know what, Mr. President, that's a great idea, that's the grand plan that we've been looking for?
We can hope so, but given how divided this country is right now on a partisan basis, I don't think so. I think the Democrats are going to universally praise what the president has to say, and I think the Republicans are going to probably universally trash what the president has to say. Look, this country is as divided now as it was in the final years of the Bush administration. And I didn't think that that was going to be possible, but clearly we see that. Democrats still like Obama. Republicans can't stand Obama. You have all the Republican candidates who are out there, and they're going to try and outdo each other to say that what the president said was bad, or didn't go far enough, or didn't do the right things. The real issue is, can he put together a plan and get a divided Congress to do something to help people and to help the economy?
Yeah, is the gridlock just too much, Bob?
Well, it's not just gridlock, and it's not just Republicans who don't like the president. I mean, even in New York, the president's numbers are way down. So even members of his own party are abandoning him because people are upset about the state of the economy. It's still what James Carville and Bill Clinton said. It's still the economy stupid. And the president's there isn't the perception that the president has his hands on the problem and is steering the country in the right direction. And I think that spread, that's Democrat, Republican, that's across the board. People don't feel that way. Good, fair or unfair, it's voter perception, and the president's getting the blame for it. I don't know that a big speech, I mean, the president's getting a reputation for thinking he can big speech his way out of a political problem, and I don't think he can.
Well, he needs a real
plan.
He has given big speeches before. After the Gabby Gifford shooting in Arizona, he was universally praised for that speech. And this is a president who is known for his oratory. I mean, is there a possibility that he could rally the troops, as it were, for something like this?
This is the guy's problem. He was elected as a big speech guy against a president that the country was sick and tired of. So he was an idea.
It was not a big big speech guy.
But it was an image. He was an idea elected to beat George W. Bush, and that's not translating into action in Washington, and that's what got voters upset.
Yeah. Steve, is this speech just coming not just 6 months too late, but maybe 2.5 years too late?
Well, I don't think it's 2.5 years too late, but I think it is probably 6 months too late for sure. Look, the president inherited a bad economy. And I'm not going to say it's President Bush's fault. I'm not going to say it's the previous Congress's fault. We had a really bad economic situation when Barack Obama became president. I think the public was willing to give him some time and say, look, we know you inherited this. It's not going to be easy. It's the worst recession since the Great Depression. It is going to take time. But now he's been president for more than 2.5 years, and the public says, unemployment is still over 9%. The stock market is still a roller coaster. I have friends, neighbors, family who are losing jobs, who are losing benefits. People are frustrated, they're angry, they're fed up, and they want to see results, and they're not seeing them. So Barack Obama is going to get blamed for that.
Will this jobs plan, because one of the raps on this president is, especially among some of the more liberal-leaning politicians and liberal voters, is that he's caving too much to Republicans. Will this plan, do you think, line up more with Republican goals on job creation, Democratic goals on job creation, or will it kind of mix and match some of those ideas together?
My guess is he's going to try and take Democratic ideas and Republican ideas with the hope that he can get a package that incorporates some of both through the Democratic-controlled Senate and the Republican-controlled House.
And typically when that happens, you upset everybody.
Well, but frankly, that's where the governing is in the middle. The governing is not on the extremes. If he gives a speech that's loaded with traditional Democratic chestnuts, it's a campaign speech where he's trying to re-energize, rally his base. If it's somewhere towards the middle, then I think you'll see a president who's not really focusing on the election next year, but is really trying to find a solution. And frankly, I think that's where his future has to be. He can't be playing to the extremes here. He's got to continue to govern from the middle.
Okay. Well, let's move on to something that's semi-local. The New York 9 House race between Bob Turner and David Weprin. It's getting weird down there, to say the least. You had a press release from Weprin about magicians last week and psychics. Turner is accusing Weprin of sending spies to their campaign events. I mean, and of course this all started.
Campaign event? That's what you're supposed to do.
And of course this all started with a very weird thing, and that was the sexting scandal of Anthony Weiner. So maybe it's all par for the course. Bob Turner seems to have the wind at his back. We're getting a lot of different polls showing Turner up, Turner down. What's your forecast in this?
Well, Siena, as you know, polled in that about a month ago, and we had Weprin up by 6 points. Since then,
which is bad for a Democrat.
Which is bad for a Democrat in a district that is overwhelmingly Democrat. Bob Turner ran against Anthony Weiner in this district last year and lost big, 61 to 39%. But this is a special election, and special elections are going to have very low turnouts. Which side does a better job of getting their voters out? Siena had Weprin up by 6 about a month ago. Last week we saw a Republican poll that said it was dead even. We saw a Democratic poll saying that Weprin was up by 8. Earlier today we saw another Republican poll that had Turner up by 4. Siena's starting its new look tonight. Will be out with a new poll at the end of this week, and the only independent pollster looking at this race. I think it's really going to come down, though, to turnout. It is clearly, no matter whether you believe the Democratic poll or the Republican poll, this is a close race. And it's going to come down to which side does a better job of getting their voters to the polls next Tuesday.
Hey, Bob, you get the last word.
Either way, it's got to be concerning for the president, because this is turning into a referendum on Obama's leadership, and Democrats win or close, it's got to be a problem for the president.
Okay, unfortunately we're out of time. Bob, Steve, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.